Watching old films is a funny experience for me, especially when it comes to considering stuff like how well they age. I do believe that it's best to approach films with the context of when and how they were made firmly in mind. I don't think it makes too much sense to judge something like Nosferatu by modern standards. At the same time, it's not something you can just sweep under the rug, you know? Interestingly, not judging something by modern standards, I find, is something that is increasingly difficult not to do the younger a film is, as if the older it gets, the easier it is to view it more clinically, and inversely, the more recent it is, the harder it becomes not to judge it based on how it has aged, probably because we are more likely to have witnessed and experienced those changes. Enter the Parent Trap. Two twins, separated at birth, meet at summer camp and scheme to meet their respective missing parent by swapping lives while also trying to convince them that divorce is the greatest tragedy since Cain killed Abel. The 1961 film and its 98 remake are both classic family films, or so I'm told. I was born 4 years after the latter and over 40 after the former, so both of them are pretty difficult to relate to in terms of setting, scenario and the like, not even getting into the fact that they both center around a rich, white, mostly American family. The original especially felt pretty alien at times, sometimes in an interesting way, but also a I can't really relate to this kind of way. Not that that's automatically a bad thing, I wasn't exactly the target audience for Turning Red and I still very much enjoyed that. But it was kinda just whatever, and aside from the admittedly strong performances, it just kinda went in and out of me. Until I compared it to the remake. I'm not sure what it is, but I just can't really vibe with this typical brand of saccharine 90s whimsy that you find in these kinds of children's films. Chalk it up to me being a post-ironic, depressed zoomer, but it's a bit too smooth for my liking, like all the edges have been sanded off. At least they had the sense to recognise that Camp Inch was a stupid name. Really, the most interesting this film gets is indirectly comparing it to the original, and realising that the older version was actually more nuanced in its depiction of divorce than the newer one. By shearing off some of the edges of the original and leaning more into the wacky comedy, the remake doesn't really explore its own premise as well as it could, and really suffers in regards to the parents. When they finally meet in the hotel, they basically pick up right where they left off and start making fuck me eyes like nothing ever happened. They don't really fight, there's not really any conflict, every single interaction is very cordial and affectionate. It makes you wonder why they even divorced in the first place. And not that you have to have a reason to divorce someone, people can have very amicable separations and still get along afterwards. But these people split their twins down the middle and took their respective halves to the other side of the planet. Something massive must have really gone wrong. But looking at them, you wouldn't guess that, and if you don't really get why they broke up in the first place, it makes them getting back together feel far less impactful, which is something the writers of the original definitely understood. The best scene in the original Parent Trap is the dinner that the twins hold for their parents, mimicking their first date. It's cute and sweet, they play their music, the parents humour them and play along, but then the kids leave and the adults sit down and talk with each other. They reminisce about their life together and it seems like things are wrapping up pretty predictably, but then tension rises, they begin lashing out at each other before calming down and remembering, yeah, this is why we split up. This single scene, without explicitly saying it, tells you both why these people divorced each other and why they got married in the first place. It not only makes the extreme separation make sense, it makes their inevitable reunion feel far more rewarding because we know what they've had to work through to get to the point where they can say, yeah, you aren't perfect, but I still love you. Look, at the end of the day, both these films are just heteronormative familyist propaganda about how the nuclear family is the only suitable environment to raise a child in, even though both twins spent 13 years in single parent households and seem perfectly well adjusted. But while the remake was just kinda that and not much more, I appreciate the effort by the original writers and performers to actually try and add some nuance and character to what could have been and eventually was a pretty nothing film. I probably won't be rewatching it anytime soon, but I can see myself rewatching it. By contrast, I'd be surprised if I rewatched the remake for any reason other than to learn more about the boy who accidentally gets sent to girls' summer camp and inexplicably spends the entire summer there. There are so many queer readings of the 2 shots he shows up in. Get on it, people! Hi everyone, thanks for watching. This video was made as part of a wider collab with the Video Essay Library. Check out the link in the description for a bunch of other videos dedicated to various and diverse summer camp films of all eras and genres. A big thank you to my patrons, in particular my tier 3 patron Michael Coolwood. If you want to support me and the work I do, links in the description to my Patreon and Ko-fi. Otherwise, thank you for watching and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.